Well, welcome everyone to HeartMind Happy Hour number 5 with Kevin Schoeninger. I am super excited for today's interview. And let me just start by introducing myself. I'm Holly Copeland. I'm a human potential coach with HeartMind Alchemy, and I am super passionate about uniting ancient wisdom and modern science to help people find inner calm and clarity and awaken to our full potential as human beings. Kevin is, I'm just really excited to have him. He was my instructor for Raising Our Vibration, a meditation community that I joined last year. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, towards the end. But just want to start by saying how extraordinary it was and how much it changed my life. So thank you for that, Kevin.
Oh, thank you, Holly.
Yeah. And Kevin is author and a teacher. He teaches Qigong and Tai Chi, and he's also has a master's degree in philosophy in phenomenology, which is the study of consciousness, which I'm so excited to talk to you because that's one of my favorite topics. So to talk to an expert and somebody who's studied that as a master's degree is just like, ooh, that's really exciting. So can't wait to dive deep into that with you.
Well, thank you, Holly, and thank you for having me on. I so appreciate the coaching work you're doing with people, and also, like you said, how you're bridging research and science and higher consciousness practices, and in a real practical way, helping people to find a place of calm and peace and de-stress and be healthier and live their fullest life. So thank you for your work.
Thanks a lot. Okay, well, to get started here, I love to get started by, let's all take a moment of presence and silence together to call in our best selves and just to open up the space. So I invite everybody here to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and sink into where you are. Sink into this moment here now with us. And feel what it feels like to be alive in this body, the room around you, the planet. Feel yourself sink into this space in this moment. And join us as we explore what becomes light and love and peace together. Okay. Well, welcome back. So we are indeed in extraordinary times. I'm sure none of us in our lifetime has seen something like this. Perhaps on the eve of World War II, this is what it felt like. I don't know, perhaps. Feels that big, where the whole planet is experiencing this together. And, when we were discussing what we'd like to talk about, you really spoke about this as challenging it as it is, as it being also an extraordinary opportunity, one where we can see it as a way for us individually to shift and for planetary consciousness to shift. So I just open up that beautiful question and would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Holly. Well, I do believe that a big crisis like this creates a big opportunity. And I believe that we need that right now. I think it's very clear that the way we as human beings have been going about living on this planet, the way we've been treating the planet, the way we've been treating our animals, the way we've been treating each other, the way we've divided ourselves up as countries, just our habits of consciousness, the way we think about life, have got to change. We see that with global climate change and pollution and just all the dramas and dysfunction that we have in our society. I really think that we need something that just stops us in our tracks. And this is something that is forcing us to pause the way we've been doing things. We're not going outside anymore. We're not going out to work. We're not socializing. We're not going to events. Where this is really stopping us and saying, okay, you're going to pause the way you're doing things now. And whenever you have the opportunity to pause, that can create an opening for something different to happen. If we don't pause, we are going to keep doing the same things. We're creatures of habit. We're gonna, if we aren't stopped in our tracks, we're just going to, the momentum of the way we've been doing things is just going to continue on and on and on. And even though we may feel stressed and anxious, and we're still going to be compelled to try to keep up and try to maintain the way things are. And that just isn't going to cut it on this planet. And so I think really some kind of crisis, and this is apparently one, is really an opportunity to stop us and to have us pause, to have us reflect, and to have us find not just new rules for how we operate, not just new laws, not just new policies, but a new state of consciousness, a new relationship to who we are and why we're here and how we relate to each other. So I'm really hopeful that this is a time when that will happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. I didn't say this early on introducing myself, but for the previous 20 years, I've worked in conservation as a scientist because of my love for the planet and especially for the environment. And it has been 20 sort of wonderful years working for the Conservancy, but also heart-wrenching, really, to see this destruction, and as a scientist for them, most of what you're doing is putting out fires all the time, describing the destruction. And yes, there were wins, and yes, we had some small wins, but the truth of the matter is that mostly humanity was having and has been having extraordinarily negative consequences on most aspects of the environment. So the idea of a global pause to reevaluate our priorities for the environment and with each other and humanity is, I also feel like very welcome, very much that's welcome. As hard as individually it might be, certainly I'm sure somebody who's looking at whether they can pay the mortgage because their job is unclear, it doesn't feel that way to them.
Absolutely. Right.
To acknowledge that, that there could be some extraordinarily personal challenges for people watching this and all around the globe.
Yes.
Their own safety and security threatened. Which I think brings me to where what I wanted to ask you next was, okay, so how does that, from a consciousness point of view, and I think my dad won't mind this, I was having a conversation with him yesterday about, just basically the fear and panic and anxiety that he felt and others around him are feeling. There's a palpable fear. Right. What do you say to that? What do you do with that fear? What do you tell people?
Yeah, well, I think if we are going to shift our state of consciousness on this planet, and I really believe that's what's necessary, not so much having new policies and new rules and that kind of thing, and or even a new president or whatever. I think it's much deeper than that. And because out of our habitual state of consciousness comes how we think, how we feel, how we act, the decisions we make. And it's really that fundamental change in our state of consciousness that is going to create new ways of doing things. So it starts with that state of consciousness. And I think we're not really educated in consciousness. We don't really even understand this consciousness that we are. We are it, and we don't understand how it operates. And that's one of the things that was such a gift in the study of phenomenology that I did in graduate school, was to really get some understanding of how consciousness operates. How do we come to be conscious of anything? How do we have any experience, whether it's an experience of fear and anxiety or experience of relaxation? How does that happen? And just a very basic idea is that the experience we're having right now depends on two things. One is what we're focusing on, and two is how we're relating to that. Okay, so let's take the coronavirus. That could be something that we focus on. And then what is the meaning context that we surround that with? That's how we're relating to it. So we've heard a lot of different stories about the coronavirus, and changing stories like, oh, it's just like the common cold. Okay, oh, I'm not worried about it. Actually, maybe not so much that. Okay, and then we've heard that it's more like the flu. Okay, but it's a highly contagious flu. Okay, and then it can get blown out of proportion as we look at the news. We start to, all their focus is on is the words they are using are pandemic and crisis and escalating numbers, and numbers went up by so much this day, and that creates this whole meaning context of fear and anxiety. Okay, so we're focused on coronavirus, but what we surround that with determines how we feel about it. Now, it is possible to have a different meaning context around that. We could have a meaning context of this is an opportunity for human beings to pause what we're doing and to create a shift in consciousness on this planet, so we relate to ourselves and each other and the planet in a new way. We could be very factual about what we've learned about the virus, that it's a respiratory disease that is transmitted through coughing and through touching hands and face, and that distancing or isolating ourselves is a way to stop that widespread overwhelm and widespread contagion. Okay, so if we depending on how we relate to it, will not only affect how the virus affects us, but how we feel about it. My perspective on the human body is that the human body is an amazingly intelligent, self-healing, self-directed, guided by source information system that will adapt to anything, any demands that are placed upon it, given the proper support. So given that we are not stressed out, that we're not anxious, that we're not exhausted, that we're taking good care of ourselves, we're resting, we're learning how to put ourselves into a state of conscious relaxation. And when we're eating good food, we're drinking clean water, we're breathing clean air, we're reducing the amount of pollutants that we're taking into the system. All of that supports this amazing immune system that we have to come online and to interact with any virus or any pathogen and to figure it out and to adapt to it and learn how to overcome it. Now, that if you hold that perspective and you say, okay, I'm going to support my immune system and I'm going to limit my contact and I'm going to, in even a deeper sense, I'm going to raise the vibration of this subtle energy system that I am. In that way, I'm going to create a whole different meaning context for relating to the virus.
Interesting. So you're talking about this meaning context, like how you view this virus in the context of your consciousness. Is that right?
Yeah. So any experience, if we are having anxiety, it's because we're focused on something and we're telling ourselves a scary story about it.
Yeah.
Right. That's how we have anxiety. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And story was the word that I was going to follow it up with. It sounds like a narrative or a story that you're telling yourself.
exactly. And the story that we tell ourselves about anything not only changes how we feel, it actually changes how our cells function. When we tell ourselves this story about body, this is an amazing immune system, and we are connected to all of life and billions of years of evolution and intelligence, and that everything we need to know is available in this wider consciousness. So body, I'm going to give you every resource that you need to draw on all of that and to relate to this virus from that position. That's an empowered position. That completely changes how I relate to what's happening. And it changes how my cells function. When I'm in a state of relaxation and empowerment, I actually flip the switches in my DNA to turn on that immune function. When I'm in a state of anxiety and stress and panic, that turns off immune function. That puts the body into a state of distress. And so at least that is to tell a different story about how this might turn out. And it might turn out differently if we as individuals shift our state of consciousness and boost our immune response. And then if we as a society raise our level of consciousness, so we start treating the planet and our animals and each other with that same care and that same support, that changes our collective immune system as well.
So the story that you tell your body matters, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. And it matters instantly. Like I experience that if I am feeling like I'm fighting something off, and if I get my body into a deep state of relaxation and infuse it with positive energy, within minutes, I feel differently and my body feels differently. I feel more energized, and it completely changes my physiological feeling as well as my emotional feeling. And that activates immune response.
Yeah. So somebody could play devil's advocate and say, but something really bad could happen.
Yes, you're freezing for me a little bit.
Okay. Hopefully.
Oh, now it's back. Yeah.
Okay. I'll rephrase that. So somebody could play devil's advocate and say, well, something bad really could happen. I mean, you could die, I could die, any of us.
Yeah.
And what I want to ask you, I guess, because, there are a ton of unknowns. We do not know what will happen to us or those we love.
Yeah.
And to me, this again goes back to the conversation I was having with my dad. There's a really important role for surrender.
Yes.
In what, for me, what underlies my ability to be strong and feel secure is that I have an underlying sense of surrender and trust that ultimately it all is okay. It all will be okay.
Yes.
Can you speak to where you put surrender and trust and the importance of that in this whole picture?
Yeah. So I think consciously relaxing ourselves is like step one. Okay, to be able to just come out of that stress mode, that anxiety mode, to be able to bring a state of relaxation into the body is just the first step. And in subtle energy meditation, we then go deeper into the body and to feel this vital force that's flowing through the body, through these energy centers, through the meridians of the body. And as we start to feel that and become connected to that, we start to connect with the universal life force all around us, and to feel and to know that we are part of an eternal life force, that we are an expression of an eternal life force that is timeless and boundaryless. And as I connect with that, as I connect with that level of experience, I get beyond myself. I get beyond self-focus, and I connect with the eternal. I connect with a larger power than myself, the creative force of the universe. And it gives me a whole different relationship to this body and this life here and now. And not only is it eternal, but it's just infinite. When my mind can expand out to that infinite space of awareness, then anything here and now is a small thing. Even this life right here in this body, it's a small thing. It's like this life in this body will pass. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it will pass, as it will all of our bodies here. We will pass from these bodies. And that's not fundamentally who we are. Fundamentally, who we are is an expression of this infinite consciousness, this eternal consciousness. And I think the metaphor of waves in an ocean is a great metaphor. And that our life in this body is like a wave, that we're born and we rise and we fall and go back into the ocean again. And we're not separate from the ocean. We are the ocean, having an experience and then going back into the pure, infinite, eternal space of awareness again. And from that infinite, eternal awareness, when we really experience that, not just that it's an idea in our heads, but when we have an experience of that, and not just a momentary experience of it, but when that becomes the consistent, persistent background, meaning context of any event in our life, that is the change in consciousness that enables us to relate to this tiny temporary life in this body, this moment in time, from a whole different perspective. That's the wider meaning context that is the antidote to fear and anxiety. Ultimately, that is the antidote to all our uncomfortable, our discomforts and our fears and our anxieties, is knowing that, but not just knowing it, but experiencing it. Actually feel that infinite space. And that's what this practice of subtle energy meditation is all about, to actually experience that. So it becomes the background for your life, the background for all relationships, the background for every thought and feeling you have, is that infinite, eternal space of consciousness.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. And I guess I can say that in my own journey through meditation, with you, and a little bit before then, over the past year and a half, very much what I have noticed is just that, returning every single day and cultivating that relationship every single day with my inner consciousness, befriending it and exploring that, then it softens the meaning, doesn't it? It softens the 3D world and its grasp on you, because you
Right.
start to realize how small it is relative to this infinite source that you're a part of, something
Yes.
much larger.
Yes. And that's, I think that is the primary shift in consciousness that is absolutely essential. And if we don't go there, then, it's just necessary for the planet and for us to learn this, to get this on a fundamental primary level of our being and our knowing. And it's a shift from self-focus, focus on, first of all, this body, this individualized unit of consciousness, and being worried about its survival, to this experiencing the infinite eternal space of awareness that never dies and that just continually expresses itself in new forms. This form Kevin, this form Holly, these are just expressions of this infinite life, and they're temporary passing expressions. And you might say, oh, that's sad. Well, it's only sad if you're hanging on to an idea that you are this small self, this that you think you are this body and nothing else. And I think that's that materialism that is embedded in our culture, and especially in our scientific culture, is we think that only what we can measure and touch and pound on is real. And actually, this is just an expression that is available through us or to us through this apparatus of these senses in this body that we have. And there is so much more than this. There is so much more than the material world. This material world is like a surface with a huge ocean underneath it. And it's that huge ocean where there's a feeling of deep peace and deep comfort and love and light and infinite eternal life. And when we're living from that deep ocean, and it surrounds us all the time, this body, it's important, and we're having experiences here in relationships and in the context of eternity and infinity. It's a passing phenomenon.
Yeah. So the invitation here for those watching, I think, is if you haven't taken up a meditation practice, the invitation that I hear you saying is this is a really great time right now to take up.
This is an ideal time. And on that note, the number, I hear so many people over the years, and I've taught meditation since 1991. And in that time, so 29 years of teaching it, the number one thing that people have told me, and increasing numbers of people have been telling me they want to meditate. So that's like in those 29 years, like first, what's meditation? And then, yeah, that's a good thing to do. I've heard about that too. Yeah, my doctor told me that would be a good thing to do. I really want to do that. I want to meditate. The number one thing people say is their excuse is, I don't have time. Well, now I bet that you have more time, and you're probably at home, or it would be a good idea to be at home if you can. And you have more time, you have more space, you have more opportunity to take a break, even if it's 10 or 20 minutes at a time, even if it starts with a few conscious breaths, honestly, and to just take a pause and to find a state of relaxation in the body. And as that becomes a grooved habit and you learn how to relax yourself, learn how to come down out of anxiety, and it becomes a reliable place of relaxation you can go to. There are greater depths that you can go down through relaxation into a wider space of awareness and touch in with this eternal, infinite consciousness. And as that happens, and as that's a daily practice, and not just during the time of meditation, but it's something that's present with you throughout the day, and it's the background for all your thoughts and all your relationships and all your decisions. And you're bringing that space to every relationship and every interaction that you have. That changes our consciousness individually and collectively. And that is the antidote. That it's something that's been tested for thousands of years. And it's something that science is backing up now, the benefits of it physiologically, starting to understand consciousness on a little deeper level. And that shift is necessary. And the time is now. And we have the time now. So let's do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a wonderful invitation. I guess I would like to ask you a little bit about the subtle energy meditation that you teach, which I experienced in the Raising Our Vibration community. But as a bit of a setup for that, I guess, when I launched my own meditation journey, I went into it with fairly simple aims, which was really to, I was just tired of the narrative in my head. I was tired of it controlling who I was. And I had this deeper sense. I mean, as many of us, I think many people do, like, I'd like to calm my mind. I'd like to, live from a greater sense of ease, and tame that monkey mind, maybe to put it simply. Mm-hmm. And, what I discovered was something so much more than that. And I know it sort of sounds silly now talking about it, because the sages and all this other reading I was doing was talking about it. So I knew there was something much bigger, but my aims going in were quite simple, honestly. Okay. And I heard it explained by somebody, there's sort of like meditation with a small m and a meditation with a large M, where meditation, there's the mindfulness, quiet your thoughts kind of aspect of meditation, just interoception and just kind of feeling calm and centered. And then there's this larger M, which is connecting to infinite source and becoming, really touching something much bigger. And subtle energy meditation certainly is that sort of with a meditation with a large M. But would you talk a little bit about those differences and what drew you to teaching subtle energy meditation, where that came from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So meditation with a small M, you could, it's stress reduction, learning how to consciously relax your body and feel inside your body, interoception, and adopt a mindful attitude. So I think we start in subtle energy meditation with those two principles: learning to feel what's happening inside the body. And then if you're not used to feeling what's happening inside your body, in your mind, in your emotions, that can be kind of, well, I don't know if I want to go in there, right? So the partner skill to interoception, feeling inner sensations, the partner skill is mindfulness, to be able to sit back and observe what is happening consciously in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So to just be able to say, with whatever arises, whether it's an anxious feeling or a body pain or a thought that just has a hold of you and won't let go, is to find that observational point of view where you can say, oh, yeah, I see. That's a thought. Oh, there's a feeling. Okay, I feel that. Okay. But to be able to look at it with a little observational distance. And that's just absolutely essential, because as we begin to tune into the body and begin to relax, memories might come up, or pains or anxieties or or monkey mind, as you were talking about. You might just say, oh, I'm thinking more and more. I thought meditation was supposed to quiet my mind, and all of a sudden my mind's busier and busier, and I'm feeling all these emotions. It's not working for me. Like, well, actually, it is working for you. That's what you notice. You're noticing the current state of your consciousness. You're noticing what you weren't noticing when you were so focused on everything you had to do out here and all these tasks and all this information input in the outer world. When you turn inward, you start to notice what's really going on underneath, inside. And so mindfulness is essential to be able to say, it's okay. Whatever comes up when I sit down to relax is okay. That's just what's happening in here. And the body has an intelligence, and the universe has an intelligence that we can trust, that if we just pay attention and we just relax through it and we just let go, we have a mindful attitude toward it, then those thoughts and those feelings and those sensations or pains or whatever, we start to have a different relationship to them. We start to realize that we have those, but we aren't those. If there's a part of me that can observe a feeling, it means I'm not that feeling. If there's a part of me that can observe a thought, it means I'm not the thought, I'm the one observing. If there's a part of me that can go into uncomfortable physical symptoms, it means there's a part of me that is observing that, and then that is not that. As we start to observe, we start to disidentify with the thoughts in our minds and disidentify with these feelings that are flowing through us, and even disidentify with the pains in our body, and discover this place of observation, this space of awareness that is different from this limited little body that we're living in. So, that's where we start, is by focusing inside, just noticing what's there, breathing, relaxing, starting to relate to uncomfortable things in a mindful way, just by observing them, allowing them to be there. We're not trying to quiet the mind. We're just noticing what's there. And by having an observational viewpoint, those things just kind of flow away. And when we don't attach to them and don't identify with them and don't give more energy to them, they just come up, they arise, and they fade away. And oh, there's a thought, and I don't give it any energy, and it fades away. And there's a feeling, oh, it's feeling stronger, but it dissolves too. And even sensations of pain, as we relate to them mindfully, they come up, and we notice that they're more like waves. They're not something that's going to continue forever. Everything is a wave. Everything comes up as a peak and resolves. And we start to realize that everything is like that in this world, that everything is like a wave. And we start to understand the impermanence of things instead of locking onto them and think. That's what anxiety does too, is we tell a story about something and we think that it's never going to end, and it's just going to get worse and worse until we're, I don't know what, but it's going to get worse, and I can't handle it. I can't take it. But if we have a mindful relationship to it, we see that nothing is like that. There's nothing that is never, everything is a phenomenon. Everything arises and fades. There is only impermanence in this world. And we start to have an easeful relationship to that. So we start to have an easeful relationship to what's happening inside us. And then we start to have a more easeful relationship to what's happening around us. And so that's the foundation. And then in subtle energy meditation, as we start to relax and tune into the body and get comfortable in the body, we start to feel subtle energy flow. We start to feel these energy centers, for example, in the abdomen and in the heart and in the center of the brain, and these energy channels like through the core of the body. And as we tune into that, we start to feel this life force. We're like, oh, maybe I'm not just this body. Maybe there's something else happening here. There's this subtle energy. There's this vital force that's flowing through us. And as we tune into that, we start to feel like, oh, yeah, that feels more like, first of all, it feels very good, but also feels more like home. It feels more like where I came from. It feels like more like this eternal, timeless being that is having an experience through this body. And so through going into the subtle energy system, then we start to connect to this universal life force and this expansive awareness of the whole field of life energy. And then even to what is the, what brings forth this field? What is underneath this field? This field arises within this infinite, pure consciousness. So that's kind of the path of subtle energy meditation.
Thank you for describing that path. And yeah, I can just reiterate again how transformative a path it was for me in my own meditation journey. And I'm really, really deeply thankful for the opportunity to study with you and experience subtle energy meditation.
Thank you.
You're coming out with an app soon, right?
Yes,
And
we're hoping it's going to be ready this week. In fact, it is available in the Play Store now, and we're waiting with a few more things to fix up in the Apple version. But yeah, we have an app that we're putting out that has about 60 subtle energy meditations. It also has the meditations from this subtle energy meditation course that you took. Those are really in-depth ones. So it has different levels to it. Starts with these mini meditations, ones that you can do in 4 to 10 minutes, just get your feet wet. And then, so we say, start here, and then there's a go deeper section, which is a little longer meditations. Some meditations, there's a whole section on optimal health, energy, and well-being. So there's a lot of meditations in there to boost your immune function and to start to feel this vital force flowing through your body and start to renew this relationship to your body as a subtle energy system. And tuning into that creates this whole other access to this whole other intelligence that is active in the body. And then we have the subtle energy meditation course, meditations which are very in-depth and so on. And we have a coherent breathing timer. That's a great way to get started. Coherent breathing is where you're breathing in for 4 to 6 seconds and then breathing out for 4 to 6 seconds, breathing in, breathing out. We have a little graphic that you can follow. And it's really relaxing to follow that. And there's a little purple ball that rolls up a hill. And it's just watching it is kind of mesmerizing and calming and very easy to do. You could do that for a couple minutes and have the effect of that. And that's a great way to get started too. There's places to log your meditation experiences and keep track and graph them and so on. So yeah, so we're having that. It should be out any moment. Like I said, it is available in the Play Store. And you can, if you go to raisingourvibration.net, I put a link to it on there.
I'm glad you mentioned the coherent breathing because, as you know, my passion is connecting those types of techniques to the science to help people really understand the science, very solid Western term science that are behind these, practices. And I'm about to publish an article on Medium about heart-brain connections. And I dive deep into coherent breathing and heart coherence and some of the really fascinating science behind those techniques. And it's been it's always fun to write an article because it forces you to really get to know the science in order to write the article. And I've just been really inspired by what I've been reading about, for example, when you breathe coherently in your heart, how those, electrical signals go to your brain, many more, 60 times more signals from your brain to your heart, or your heart to your brain than from your brain to your heart.
Yeah.
So, we usually think of, I think most of us think of our brain as sending signals to the body, but it's actually the reverse. The heart is sending these extraordinary signals to the brain and changing the brain.
Right. Also we've, not only is there a nervous system in the heart, but also in the gut. And so one of the things that deep breathing does, deep breathing really sends relaxation and signals through and massages the organs in the gut, and sends a relaxation response up through the vagus nerve, up through the heart. As you said, as we combine deep breathing with focusing into the heart and focusing on feelings of calm and happiness, that amplifies the signal. And so the combination of deep breathing, positive emotion, that all sends these signals of calm and deep relaxation to the brain. And that changes our physiology. It changes how this body, mind, heart functions.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about having positive feelings and that changing your brain, for those listening, this isn't just, Kevin hypothesizing about this, or this is people's experience. This is published Western science.
Yes.
That when you do this type of breathing and when you feel these positive feelings in your heart, you trigger your parasympathetic nervous system to relax. And you literally change your brain waves. You produce more theta and alpha brain waves. You trigger a cascade of neurotransmitters in your brain that send calming, relaxing signals throughout your body. So it's absolutely
in your
not
heart
just
and in your gut. Yeah. So
yeah.
we think of neurotransmitters up here, but the heart is a network that sends out neurotransmitters, as is our gut is a network that produces and sends out neurotransmitters through the body. So this deep breathing that activates, relaxes our abdomen, and then brings our heart into coherence, and then that brings our brain waves into coherence. That is a whole mind, body, heart system that starts to work together and starts to integrate and synchronize, so that our whole body, mind, heart comes online together and works together, and the infinite intelligence that is expressed here comes online and does what it knows how to do, which is be healthy and be purposeful and tune into guidance and all these wonderful things that don't happen when we're in a state of anxiety.
But you have to choose it, right? You have to consciously make that choice.
You have to choose it every moment, and it begins by starting to have a taste of what it is like to come into a state of relaxation. So it begins with that. You have to have a taste of relaxation. It's really interesting when people start meditation, they often had no idea how much tension and stress they were storing in their body. There's no idea. That I've seen people in meditation class who shoulders are up like this, and they're like, I'm relaxed. Right? And it's like, well, how about just try that? Oh, yeah, okay, that feels better. And so it's really having a taste of how we're holding tension, how we're tuning into the feelings that aren't that comfortable, and saying, oh, that's just how I'm relating to life. That's just a story I'm telling. And let me see if I can start to relax my body and tune into a deeper awareness and tell a different story about life.
it's, to me, it's like, who's in charge here? You know, I mean, in the big picture, we're not in control, but in our own inner day-to-day experience, we get to choose
Mhm.
whether we're going to, what story we're going to tell ourselves,
Right.
and how we're
Absolutely.
going to be.
Every moment is a choice. Am I going to come from anxiety and fear, or am I going to come from a deep sense of relaxation, love, and awareness? It's every moment I can make that choice, but I can only really make that choice if I have some kind of practice that familiarizes me with that state of relaxation, that state of peace, that state of love, and state of greater awareness. If I don't have familiarity with that, I can't choose it, because it's just I don't have that in my repertoire. But if I say, I'm really going to investigate this, I'm going to see how I can do this, how I can experience it. I'm going to do it every day, or I'm going to do it throughout the day. I'm going to pause and take a conscious breath, and I'm going to let go, and I am going to experience what it is like to relax my body. And I'm going to see if I can stay with that experience and sink into it and absorb in it and become really familiar with it. So that then when I watch the news and I start feeling anxious, I just pause and I say, okay, hold on, let me just come back to that state of relaxation. And now I'm going to relate to that from this state of relaxation. And I'm going to have a whole different perception of it, and a whole different clarity about it, and what I might do about that information that I'm receiving.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it has to be in your repertoire. It's like, it's such a beautiful analogy. And I at first thought, well, maybe it's like, that book has to be on your bookshelf. You can't read it if it's not on your bookshelf, or you have to know how to dance that dance. Somebody has to have taught you to dance that dance.
Yeah.
You're not just going to get out on the dance floor and start dancing something you've never been taught.
Absolutely. And something that you haven't practiced. And when you first start with tuning in inside, you're like, what you discover is all the stuff that's going on in there. And that's okay. That's what you need to discover first. Need to discover that you're holding your shoulders up your entire life. And that's creating a lot of stress and anxiety in your body. And then you tune in, you're like, what if I did that? What if I took a deep breath? It's like, oh, that's different. Okay, let me become familiar with that. I need to become familiar with it, because these other tendencies, all this information is pervasive in the culture. All this anxiety is pervasive. It's everywhere around you. So if you're going to get familiar with deep relaxation and connect to a greater awareness, you're going to have to pause that, go into a quiet place, and find something different. You're going to have to find this, and it's here. It's right here through your body. It's right here through a very simple practice, through your breathing, through how you're feeling. And as you start to become familiar with that, then you can start to take that out to relate to life. But you have to have that time away from everything, that pause regularly. And probably right now you got to do it a lot. Right?
Yeah.
You got to,
Right.
oh, I'm going to be pausing all day long because I keep getting all these messages and all this fear. Okay, so I'm going to pause as many times as I need to. And I'm going to come back, and I'm going to take a coherent breath, and I'm going to find that state of relaxation again. And I'm going to bring my body and heart and mind into coherence. And then I'm going to relate to things from that place.
Oh, I love where this conversation's gone. What you're saying, about this choice. I mean, it's a barrage. Everybody, there's so much information and there's so much fear. And I told a client that I was speaking with this week that you have to be ruthless with choosing what to think and how to respond. Like,
Yeah.
very disciplined to say, I am not buying into that fear.
Yeah, I think discipline is a good word. Vigilance, vigilant is a good word.
Vigilant, discipline.
Because if you aren't keeping your awareness level high, those thoughts and that are going to be coming in, and they're good. All of a sudden, you're going to start to be feeling anxious, and then you're going to need to pause again. And you're going to need to go back to that state of relaxation, that state of calm, spacious awareness. And then you're going to come back and you're going to relate to what's happening. And the other thing about that, when you get into a state of calm and you get into a state of spacious awareness, there's a natural compassion that arises, because you're not feeling the separation and the division and the anxiety and the threats and the fears. There's just that eternal, infinite awareness just includes everyone and everything and relates to everyone from compassion. It's just the nature of this existence, is that it's compassionate and it's inclusive. We're all connected. It's peaceful. Underneath all of this, the deeper ocean is always peaceful, and it's always available. We can always connect to it, no matter what's going on the surface waves. There could be a storm up there, but deep down in the ocean, it's completely calm. And when we go there and let that be the background for how we relate to ourselves, relate to each other, that creates a whole different experience here in this world.
Well, and when you come from that source of, finding the still source within and relating to the world from that space and tapping into that, it is deeply compassionate, and it's an extraordinary gift to those around you, because now you're a source of strength and compassion for any interaction you have, as opposed to fear. And you do others a great service, then you're.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's, a lot of people think, oh, well, I've got to take care of everyone. I can't take time by myself alone quietly. There's so much to do. I have to take care of everyone. I have to do and the best thing you can do is to first find this place of deep relaxation and peace and spacious awareness and compassion. And then when you come from that space, everything you do is magic. Everything just has a whole different quality to it, and everyone feels it, and it changes not only how it feels, it changes how things work here. Like physiologically, things start to work differently. The events in life actually start to work differently when we live from a different state of consciousness. It's like we're living in a whole different reality.
I don't need to say any more, because that was perfect way to end it. That was beautiful. Yeah, it is magic from that place. What a wonderful place to leave people, I think. So learn the dance.
Learn the dance.
So that you can help others.
Yeah, and meditation of any kind and subtle energy meditation, those are bridges into that different space of awareness, that wider space of awareness. And they're readily accessible. It costs nothing. It just takes a little time. It takes some discipline. It takes doing a little bit at a time to become familiar with it. But as you do, and as you sink in deeper, it changes your life and the lives around you.
Great wisdom you speak of. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience with me and with everybody watching today. I really do appreciate it, Kevin.
Thank you, Holly. I so appreciate you having me on. And as you know, Stephen Alter and I are really on a mission with this Raising Our Vibration project and effort. And thank you for being a part of it. And thank you for what you're doing here with this work and sharing it and getting it out to more and more people.
It's an extraordinary project, Raising Our Vibration. So those who want to know more, raisingourvibration.net, correct?
Yes, and then Raising Our Vibration community page on Facebook, and we post resources there pretty much every day, guided meditations, like-minded people who are, you know, doing good things in the world. And it's, you know, watch the news just enough and then spend your time consuming this positive information. There's a movement, a wave of higher consciousness on this planet, and it is growing, and you can be a part of it and participate and add to it, and we can shift the state of consciousness we're living from here, and that will change life here on our planet.
Indeed it will. Yes. Choose those resources and watch the magic unfold. Well, thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you, Holly.
And it's just been a joy to be with you today. I really, really appreciate it. I'm Holly Copeland. HeartMind Alchemy is my project, and I coach, and I'm starting a new course coming up April 5th. And anybody that is interested can go to my website or reach out to me on Facebook at HeartMind Alchemy and learn more about my new 10-week course. And there'll be more HeartMind Alchemy happy hours coming up. So stay tuned for those too.
Thank you, Holly.
Yep. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.